Juventus, 2 Champions League trophies, 2 finals in the last 10 years, and 36 Serie A titles. Inter Milan, 3 Champions League trophies, also 2 finals in the last 10 years, and 20 Serie A titles. When we talk specifically about Italian football, these are undoubtedly the 2 best teams out there. That's why it's no surprise that the derby between them is called Derby d'Italia. And while Inter have mainly been on the rise over the last 5 years, Juve are now starting to rebuild after a turbulent period. Interestingly, their squads are at opposite ends of the spectrum. They're completely different in terms of the types of players they have and their ages. So let's compare them. Heading into the 2025-26 season, Juventus can now be described as having depth, unlike in previous years. In goal, they rely on Michele Di Gregorio as their steady presence. Behind him, Carlo Pinsoglio and the newly signed Stefano Gori are reliable backups. Then there's Mattia Perin, once tipped for a bright future at the Allianz Stadium, who has played 17 matches in the last 2 years and is expected to leave. In defence, their strategy is based on versatility. Gleison Bremer and Federico Gatti provide stability in central defence, while Lloyd Kelly offers flexibility, playing both as a left-standing centre-back in a 3-4-3 formation and occasionally as a left-back in a 4-3-3. Pierre Çalhanoğlu and local graduate Nicolo Savona add further tactical options, making Juventus' defence well-rounded. Admittedly, they lack width on the flanks at first glance, but Igor Tudor only implements a formation with 3 at the back, so it makes perfect sense. Then there is the midfield, where Juventus' depth really shines through. Manuel Locatelli captains the team and drives them forward. Supporting him is Toon Koopmeiners, who brings goals and energy from box to box. The same could be said of Douglas Luiz. The Brazilian arrived from Aston Villa last summer after some outstanding performances for the English side. His last campaign in claret and blue was particularly successful, with 10 goals scored and 10 assists, playing from deep in midfield and helping Villa qualify for the Champions League. Then, his first season in Turin was a complete catastrophe, to say the least, but he still focused in succeeding at Juve. Weston McKennie and Khéphren Thuram are 2 more players eager to make an impact. Unlike Douglas in his first season, they demonstrated their qualities and are expected to have a huge influence in the season as well. In attack, Juventus bolstered their ranks with both firepower and variety this summer with the addition of Jonathan David. Several major European clubs were linked with the Canadian over the last 9 months, knowing that his contract was due to expire in the summer. Ultimately, however, Juventus managed to sign him. He's a lightweight striker who can also play as a second striker. With the 3-4-3 formation in mind, David will play at the top. His main competitors for the position are Dusan Vlahović, who's expected to stay at the Allianz Arena, and Arkadiusz Milik, who had a tough 2024-25 season and didn't play a single game for Juve. As for the wide areas next to Vlahović and David, Chico Conceição will most likely play on the left and Kenan Yildiz on the right in most of the important games. Last season, the duo created many beautiful moments for Juventus fans and finished with a total of 30 goal contributions between them. Nevertheless, this could be considered low given their huge potential. And of course, we finish it off with Nico Gonzalez, now a full member of the squad, who adds unpredictability and can be very useful as a rotational option. And now, from one of the youngest teams at the Club World Cup, in which both Juve and Inter underperformed heavily by the way, we go all the way to one of the oldest. Yes, the average age difference is huge, as the old lady sits between 24.5 and 26 years old depending on the source. At the other end of the spectrum, Inter's average age is around 31 years. Before the Champions League final, the Spanish newspaper El País reported that Inter had fielded the oldest starting 11 of all 32 teams throughout the season. And it all starts with a keeper. You can't expect to have a young squad when the starting point is a goalie who's 36 and will be 37 soon. Yes, he's still an excellent keeper and proved it in the Champions League semi-finals when he basically beat Barcelona on his own. Given that Inter obviously won't be able to sign Gianluigi Donnarumma, as rumoured at the start of the summer, they'll stick with Sommer and Josip Martinez, who performed well as a backup. Now, turning to the outfield players, despite the managerial change from Simeone Inzaghi to Christian Chivu, the formation is expected to remain the same. Similarly to his predecessor Inzaghi, Chivu implements a formation with 3 at the back, most often a 3-5-2. The 3 defensive players are therefore vital for the team's success. Everything starts with Alessandro Bastoni, the heart of the defence. Being left-footed, Bastoni plays as the left-standing centre-half. Under Inzaghi, he became known for advancing forward and finding himself in unusual positions for an average centre-back. Next to him is Francesco Acerbi, who was rumoured to be sold after Inzaghi's departure, but the first pre-season friendly against Monaco showed that he could actually be included in the rotation for the new season. In terms of depth at the back, Stefan de Vrij, Benjamin Pavard and Jan Bissek are all still in place. The situation on the flanks is similar. Fede Di Marco and Denzel Dumfries are the first choice players, while Carlos Augusto and Matteo Darmian provide backup stability. And what about midfield? Well, it's a mix of experience and fresh legs. As in the last couple of seasons, we'll again see the trio Barella, Çalhanoğlu and Mkhitaryan. No bad feelings towards any of those guys, but the average age of this midfield is 31.6 years, which is arguably the highest of any top club in Europe. While this hasn't impacted the team negatively so far, it inevitably will at some point. So we'll probably see more and more of Pietro Zielinski or Christian Aslani from now on. Up front, Inter is more or less the same again. Lautaro and Thuram will be responsible for providing attacking dynamism and scoring vital goals at crucial moments. Realistically, the only changes are the absence of Marko Arnautovic, who left for Red Star Belgrade, and the addition of Antoine Bonni, who arrived from Parma. Luis Enrique arrived from Olympique Marseille for around €20 million just before the Club World Cup, but played less than 150 minutes throughout the tournament. Therefore, 2025-26 will be his time to shine. Mehdi Taremi, who disappointed in his first season at San Siro, is expected to silence his critics trying to impact the games coming on from the bench. So, what happens when we line up the two squads side by side? Well, in terms of pure depth, Inter have a clear advantage. Inter's roster is more functional, but Juventus can still produce surprises when the moment demands it. One significant difference lies in the substitutes bench. Inter have built a reputation for integrating off-the-shelf reinforcements, players who step onto the pitch and actually change the game. Their bench isn't just for show, it's for shifting momentum. Juventus can match this in bursts, particularly thanks to the dynamism of Francisco Conceição on the right and Kenan Yildiz on the left. However, Inter's greater consistency in deploying players in effective roles during matches gives them an advantage in terms of depth. Then there's the question of experience versus freshness. Inter has one of the oldest starting lineups in Serie A, stable, disciplined and veteran heavy. In tight matches, that can mean composure under pressure. However, there's a catch: fatigue. That same experience pool can become a liability across a grueling campaign. Juventus, by contrast, incorporate youth and energy, sharper legs and faster recovery, but sometimes the cost is tactical naivety in crucial moments. So from this point of view, Juventus might beat Inter, but this isn't guaranteed. Remember the Champions League semi-final against Barcelona? Inter played against one of the three younger sides in Europe and still won. When it comes to the experience versus freshness debate, recent heads-to-heads prove how powerful real depth can be. In that February derby, Inter dominated early on, but they simply ran out of steam towards the end of the game, and Juventus's fresher legs tipped the balance. The scoreline was slim at 1-0, but the message was clear. Depth isn't just about having players, it's about having effective ones when you need them most. However, despite their slight victory in the Derby d'Italia, Inter have been the more successful side overall in their encounters since the beginning of 2020. Yes, only just, but they still have the edge. So our final verdict is that Inter are beating Juve on the depth scale, not because they have a bigger squad, but because theirs is more effective. Juventus remains potent, especially when it comes to individual brilliance that wins matches, but Inter's bench consistently delivers cohesion and performance under pressure. This enables them to exceed expectations over a long, challenging season. However, if I had to choose a team for the next 5 to 10 years, Juve's potential and young talent would make my choice obvious. But what do you think, guys? What's your opinion on the matter? And most importantly, who will finish higher in Serie A this season? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe and click on our last upload in which we discuss how AC Milan will look after the return of Max Allegri. Catch you there.